Hello, how we're doing today? Let me do my checks and I'll be with you in a moment. This is Knowledge from Beyond. We're going to have a great show. We always have a great show. I just need to make sure that everything is working properly. And then we'll be good to go. And we should be good. Let me see and give everybody a chance to get in here.
Let me do my checks and I'll be with you in a moment.
And
this is Knowledge from Beyond.
Excellent. I'm there. And let me just go one other place and we'll be out of here. So I just need to check here and make sure we're here also. But I'm glad everyone is here and I hope you enjoy the show today. We're planning on having a very good show. And where's the show? Okay. Well, we are here. I don't see where the other show is located. Where did I put the other show? Well, hopefully we're everywhere. We're supposed to be good. And I'm not saying that we're everywhere, but we should be in the house. And we are in the house. It's right here. It was just running late. Excellent. So I'm out. I'm ready to go. This is my name is Len Livesey. I'm your full spectrum Gnostic, and we have a very exciting show for you today. We're talking about the Earth reversing magnetic field, and this is something that we have glimpsed about before when we talk about polar shift, but we have never went into the full depths of this. So this is a giant subject and we have a lot to cover. And I'm going to try to look at your comments and see what's going on. And we are good to go. But if you have any comments or questions, feel free and let's get started. So today, as you know, we always go back to the beginning. First, we got that picture up there. That's called that blue marble. That's called the Earth. And what works on the Earth is what a lot of people do not know about is that we have a magnetic field that protect our planet against solar and gamma rays and all this other bad stuff from outer space. And also, the Earth magnetic field is what makes everything electronic on this Earth works. It might even make more than that work. And this is why we're afraid of what is going on. So let's go back to the beginning, as I said before. So we've been on this blue ball for a very long time. If you're a Christian, you believe we've been here 6,000 years. If you're in the science, you believe we've been here at least hundreds of thousands of years. People as we know it, just looking just like us, has been walking around for at least 100,000 years. Okay, so but a lot of things have changed, and some of this we do not understand. And we're starting to think that maybe this polar reversal thing is one of the things that are causing some of the craziness. But Lynn, what craziness? I don't know of any craziness. Okay, even though people that look like us have been on this planet for 100,000 years, the problem is that when written history only goes back 6,000 years, there's a lot of history that is missing, and science doesn't know why. Why is there no history going back more than 6,000 years? If you believe in the Bible, it's because there wasn't nothing here before 6,000 years. But science knows that's not true. There are ruins on this planet in South America, Tiwanaku, and all these other places, and places all around the world that dates back 30,000 years, 45,000 years, and going back to ridiculous times. Okay. Science can't explain this. Now, if you're into ancient aliens, you would say, oh, those are those aliens that built those are those different people. But we don't really believe that. What we believe is that, and this is the new science theory, this is not somebody with a Ouija board or anything. Science now believes, so I hope you're sitting down when I say this, that civilization have advanced or more advanced than what exists now has been on this planet at least 6 times. Because they have found things, now that they're digging all over the world, they have found things all over the world that prove that people existed at our level or advanced or more advanced than us 6 times in the history that they can record. But for some strange reason, when people got to these very high levels, like as I was talking about some of these cities in South America, some of these cities in South America date back at least 30,000 years. And even though these monolithic building techniques, somebody was moving rock of 200 tons and all kind of stuff. Some of these, even today, they use no brick and mortar, and you cannot even take a knife blade or a credit card to go between the blocks. If we build something today, 5 years after rebuilding, you can take a knife or a credit card and go between the blocks. Okay. Some of these things are amazing we have seen. And some of the cuts, they're taking some of the hardest rock in the world and they're cutting it with so much precision. We would have a hard time doing that today with the most advanced equipment we have. And this stuff was not done in a factory, it seemed like, and carried out. Some of this stuff was done at remote locations. And not only is the technique of cutting rock, it's the technique we have found walls put together with metal braces, and it appears that the molten metal was poured. The stones had a groove cut in the stones, and someone poured molten metal into the braces to hold those two stones together. Now, how do you get molten metal to a construction site and you're pouring molten? We don't even do that today. Okay. We have found all kind of stuff. You have heard those lies about the pyramids in Egypt is only a few thousand years old, but we know that is not true because that is the outside casing blocks. When you start looking on the inside blocks of the pyramids, not the outside blocks, and according to the Egyptians, the pyramids was fixed up several times. They did several projects to fix up the pyramids. But when you get into the inner casing blocks, the outer blocks are 60 tons. Which are heavy. But the inner blocks of the pyramids are 200-ton blocks. And somebody was stacking those things with precision that we don't have today. Okay. And for us to move a 200-ton block today, it would take us 1 week to move one block. We couldn't stack blocks and make a pyramid out of it. That we don't have the technology today to do that. And some of the things that we have found in Lebanon and all kind of places just defy our modern techniques and science. But what we keep finding is that people was very advanced. They was doing all of this crazy stuff, building all this advanced stuff. If you read the Gita and everything, they had flying ships, this and that, everything. And we have found, well, then that's just fictional stories. But in some of these books, we have even found the recipe on where they talk about the type of fluid they was using to fly the crafts and how they use liquid mercury and how they use this yellow fluid, probably gasoline, and all this other stuff. And the suits they had to wear, and they had to wear these tight-fitting suits, and they had to wear this thing over their face. It sounds like this people are describing the technology we have today. But these books are thousands of years old. Even in the Gita, when they talk about the wars that was fought on this earth long ago, those are fictional, right? They talk about the effects and And when lightning bolts was launched against the city would go up in a cloud, and all the vases would break, and all the people's hair would fall out, and all the elephants would catch on fire, all the birds would fall out of the air, uh, people would die of weird disease. That sounds exactly like what happened in Japan when we dropped the atom bomb. But again, it's written thousands of years old. And then we got all this stuff, the stories of Atlantis, cities being lit with giant crystals and this and that and all this stuff. And then there's nothing. We have super high technology. We contract the high technology, and then it just falls off into nothing. And then there's a long period of people being very, very primitive again. And then people quickly climb to a super high level of technology, and then it falls back off again to another primitive era. This is what a lot of people are afraid that's going to happen to us. This is what happened when Rome fell. Most people don't know it, but if you was in Rome during Jesus' day, most Romans lived in apartment blocks that was 6 stories tall. They had glass in their windows. They had running water. They had everything. They had sewer systems in the city, all kind of stuff. Rome was a very modern city. They had heated floors in their temples and all this stuff. And then within less than 100 years, people was living in grass huts. That's what we call the Dark Ages. We don't understand why things totally collapse and fall down. And if you don't understand the past, how you going to understand when it happens to you? And will we be telling our kids 100 years from now these fictional stories about we used to climb in these metal tubes and they used to sail through the air and all this stuff? And our kids are going to say, I'm tired of you telling me all these lies. Okay, there was no metal tube that went through the air. How can metal tubes go through the air? Okay. Because 100 years from now, airplanes and rockets and cell phones might just be a fable. But science is trying to understand, how could this have happened? And it didn't happen just once, but it happened so many, many times. At least 6 times. There's a theory which is developing. They don't know if this theory is correct or not, so I'm going to tell you. They won't know until it happens. And if their theory is correct, it's our ass. Okay, I'll just say that. Now, to build up to the climax, we have to build to the climax. I can't give you everything right away. Okay, they've been monitoring. The first measurement of the magnetic north and south of the magnetic North Pole was in the early 1900s. And they've been measuring the magnetic North Pole of the Earth ever since the early 1900s. And before, it would move a few inches every year. Then it would move a few feet every year. Then it was moving a few miles every year. Today, the magnetic North Pole of the Earth is, oh my gosh, it's just totally out of control. And they don't understand why it's moving. And they can now, they thought the magnetic draw of the Earth was always the same. The magnetic field of the Earth has weakened by as much as 80% in the last 100 years. Why? We don't know. But Lynn, why should we care? Who cares? What science is thinking is happening. There's 2 things. We talk about polar shift, which was a theory about the Earth North Pole moves and changes position. See, a lot of things starts as a theory. And this was a crazy theory at first, that the North Pole wasn't always the North Pole, and the North Pole have changed position several times. Now we know it is true because magnetite, which is iron ore when it is a magnetic field present, will always line up with the pole. So when you find magnetite in the earth, it's always pointing in the same direction. The problem is, as you dig down into the earth, it varies. At first it's pointing this way. You dig down so far, and then it's pointing this direction. And you dig down more, and then it's pointing in this direction, and it keeps moving around. We now know of 5 locations of where the North Pole used to be. And at first we thought this was kind of crazy. But then it lines up with a lot of things that matches the archaeological record. For example, we now know if you had a time machine and you went back in history 12,500 years to the magic year of 10,500 BC. That's the reason they made that movie 10,000 BC. They keep talking about 10,000 BC because the world was totally different there. Today, the North Pole is located in Russia. We all know that. Siberia, north of Siberia. But if you had a time machine and you went back 12,500 years, 13,000 years, the North Pole wasn't there. The North Pole used to be located in Hudson Bay, Canada. And science know this. Because this is why before they talk about, if you was in school, you got to dust off your old books. It talks about that all of North America was covered by ice. And since I'm from Ohio, they talk about it a lot because they say the glacier stopped at the Ohio River. That was the southernmost point of the glacier. This is why Ohio is flat and Kentucky is hilly, is giant hills. Because the glacier flattened out the land to the Ohio River. Everyone in Ohio knows that. They drill that in our heads. And from the Ohio Valley going north, it's all flat. Okay. But how could that be? How could a glacier, and they say that glacier was at least 1 mile to 2 miles thick. What happened to the glacier? When that glacier melted, when the polar shift of the earth switched from Hudson Bay, Canada to north of Siberia, all the ice, what they call receded or melted and opened up the North American continent. Okay. You might say, oh, that's a great thing. But if you was in North America, I guess it was a great thing because all that frozen ice melted. But if you was in Siberia 12,500 years ago, it was not a great thing because underneath the glacier in Siberia, there is a rainforest buried underneath the ice. And that rainforest is full of palm trees, which are frozen, and full of animals, especially mammoth, which froze so rapidly they didn't even have time to fall over and die. So this was not what you call a good day. If you happened to be in Russia at that time, in that rainforest, 12,500 years ago, the temperature probably fell from 80, 90 degrees above zero to probably 100 degrees below zero, probably within a matter of minutes. Okay. You had a very, very bad day. And when all that ice melted in North America, you would think that was a very good day. But not exactly, because when all that water melted, it had to run somewhere. And we now believe this is one of the things that created the Grand Canyon. When all that water melted, it had to run somewhere. And this is why the Grand Canyon is it they know it was made out of water that was probably 100 feet tall. It was like a tsunami wave because that thing melted so rapidly, and you had hundreds and billions of tons of water that had to go somewhere. And it carved out patterns and grooves into the earth, which we now call canyons. So if you was in the way of that water, you probably had a bad day. But Lan, what do this have to do with magnetic reversal? Because is this something only about the pole moving? Or is it more than just the pole moving? Because there's something in history that is documented that we have never been able to explain. And we're starting to think this explains one enigma in history that we could never explain. We know that the Egyptians have always been one of the most high-tech and advanced people in the ancient world. They had the pyramids, they had their giant temples, they had everything. But in Egypt, for some strange reason, on all of their maps of Egypt, the North Pole is not this direction. On all maps in Egypt, when they talk about the North, they talk about this way. And the South is this way. This is what most people don't understand when you read anything about ancient Egypt. When they talk about that the northern Egypt and southern Egypt is the opposite of what we call North and South today. Northern Egypt was South Egypt and what we call Sudan. And northern Egypt was what we called, and southern Egypt is what we today call northern Egypt. But the Egyptians always referred to them backwards. Were they just dumb and stupid and they didn't know any better? Okay. Or was the pole different long time ago? Because the Egyptians talk about things which we don't know about. Because Egyptian history goes back that far. See, we all know that the Nile flows north and south. We all know that the river Nile flows north and south. The Egyptians talk about that the Nile used to flow east and west. We thought that was pretty strange too. You mean the Nile flowed east and west? It didn't flow north and south? That's what they say. And it flowed across northern Africa, across from east to west. And that's just crazy. But when you go in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and they have dug in the middle of Sahara Desert, they have found all kind of pictographs of lions and elephants and rivers and palm trees and all this other stuff. Why would you put all of that? And they have found a lot of things about ancient settlements that was long abandoned super long time ago. Because when the Nile changed direction from north to south, from east to west to north to south, that fertile land of northern Africa became a vast desert. What could have made these giant things happen? There is a theory which science is very rapidly trying to figure out and trying to confirm before it happens, is that one of the things that occurs is something called polar reversal. Okay. And that the North Pole and South Pole are not permanent. They flip. Not that the entire Earth rotates over, like some people believe. It's just that, as I'm showing in the graph right over here, right, where's that graph at? I can't. It's right over here. That today, all electrons, all electrical stuff flows from north from from north to south. If the pole reversed, instead of the North Pole being northern polarity, the North Pole would switch, and the South Pole would have the positive. It would, the pole of the Earth would actually flip upside down. Okay. So the Earth is like a giant battery. One pole is positive, one pole is negative. Everything flows towards the negative pole. And the negative pole is the North Pole. If the magnet field of the Earth reversed, everything would flow. It would switch from flowing to the North Pole to flowing to the South Pole. But Lynn, who cares? The problem is, this might explain why civilizations get to a very high level and then collapse to nothing. Because what scientists is trying to confirm, and they have already partially confirmed some of this, is that if polar reversal happened tomorrow, it would short out every electrical device in the world. Because everything we have is meant to flow in a single direction. You get what I'm saying? And when you reverse that direction, it's the same as taking the batteries out of your radio and putting them in backwards. You short out your radio. Like taking your car battery and hooking it up backwards. You blow out your electrical system. If the magnetic field of the Earth collapsed, everything electrical would short out instantly. We would immediately go back to the Stone Age. We would have no electronics of any kind, no computers, no nothing, because the electronic field of everything has been reversed. We would have to re-engineer everything to run backwards. And we believe, some scientists believe, this is why civilization get to a very high level and then it falls off into nothing. Because every time you have these reversals, you lose. All of civilization is lost. So, what would that happen to us today? If that, people talk about today, if somebody dropped an EMP bomb and how that would short out stuff, this is even worse because this would cover every electrical device worldwide. Would not work. Everything would be, and you couldn't just reverse the batteries. It would short out because it's running backwards. We would have to redesign and remake everything to run the opposite, because the electrons would not run in the direction that they do now. They would run in the opposite direction. So when we lay out an electrical circuit, we would have to lay out the electrical circuit, instead of the electrons going from negative to positive, we would have to do it where they went the opposite direction, because negative would then be positive and positive would then be negative. Do any of this make sense? And it would be different if we had time to adjust. But if the Earth pole switched tonight, we would go from lit cities and TVs and computers and electronics and satellites and everything we have to we would have nothing instantly. This would be worldwide. We would be reduced down to nothing. And what would happen if that occurred? The problem is, we live in a high-tech world and a high-tech society. If that occurred, especially if you live in a city, if you live in the 13th floor of a building and the lights are out and they can't fix the lights because the electrical system is all torn up, is all shorted out, and they have to rewire the not only the entire city but the entire building, the entire city, the entire country. Every electrical plant would have to be everything would have to be rebuilt from scratch to run opposite. You know how many people would die of starvation? Because we wouldn't have any means of moving things around. Trucks wouldn't work, plane wouldn't work, radios wouldn't work. You would basically be back to the Stone Age. And sometimes scientists now believe this is what happened 6 times before. That the polarity of the earth, every time is switched, civilization is lost. And this leads into war, conflicts, starvation, this and that. And basically, within a very short time, we're back to the Stone Age. Because the problem we have, society today is only controlled by a few people. We don't know how a cell phone works. I'm using a computer and a green screen today. I don't know how this shit works. I really don't know. Okay, I just turn it on. I don't have the slightest idea how it works. And 99% of the people don't know how it works. And our houses is full of a lot of things we don't understand how they work. How many people know how a microwave works or know how so many things work? We just turn it on. And when it doesn't work, we call a repair guy to come and fix it, or we go and buy a new one. So if everything's shorted out, we couldn't call a repair guy because he couldn't fix our laptop, because our laptop is designed for the electricity, for the circuitry to run in a certain direction. If it's going to run backwards, they would have to redesign the entire circuit to run backwards. So you just couldn't take it to a repair place and they fix it. You get it? So this would be devastating, super devastating. And if you lived in a place that had minimal electronics and minimum this and that, like for example, if you lived in the Amazon or lived in the rainforest in Africa or this or that or everything else, the impact on your life would be minimal. But if you live in New York City or in Tokyo, Japan, or in a place like that, or in Las Vegas, Nevada, you're dead. There's no food, there's no water, there's no electricity, there's no way to fix it. You got people stuck in buildings 60 stories tall, there's no way to get them down. Okay. There's no way to pump water because all the pumps are broken. There's no way to fix them. We would have to rebuild society from the ground up, every little piece. It would be chaos, especially in the cities. So this is something which they don't really want to talk about. Science is trying to figure out what is the solution to this problem if this did happen. Okay, with a lot of problems, just like with an EMP, they have made things where they can shield military vehicles. But how can you shield anything from the Earth magnetic field? You cannot. So if you're flying on a plane, the plane would just basically short out and fall out of the ground and fall out of the air. If you're in a submarine, the submarine would just short out and sink to the bottom of the ocean. There's no way to fix it. So This is very scary stuff. Before I go any further, do anyone have okay? Do anyone have a comment, or do anyone think there is a way of fixing that or solving this problem? This is what science is trying to figure out. If this did happen, what could we do? How could we survive? Or would we go back to the Stone Age? The few survivors that crawled out of this apocalypse. And the Earth population of almost 7 billion, we might go back down to a half a billion people within 100 years. And the people, as I told you, who would do the best is the people that have nothing, that don't have radios, don't have tractors, don't have nothing. Their standard, their life would basically not change in any way because they don't have nothing to short out. Now, if that wasn't scary enough, there is a theory which some scientists believe that this would even affect the human brain. And if the field of the earth switch, since all of our electrons in our brain are also operated by the earth magnetic field, they would change priority. Would we lose our memory? Would we lose everything? What would happen if our brain went from moving one direction and started moving the other direction? Would you lose all your thoughts? What would happen? We don't know. We don't have a way of testing. I guess we could take a person out in outer space and do that. And and try to introduce an artificial magnetic field pulling one way, and then we reverse it very quickly and see if that affects the person or drives them crazy, or maybe he goes and okay, we don't know what would happen to people. Would we keep our memories, or would all of our memories in our brains be erased immediately? And that is what some scientists believe, because we have something called a magnetic memory. Our brain is magnetic. All of our memories are stored in our neutrons. They are stored magnetically. And if polar reversal happened, and if our brain reversed, would we lose our magnetic memory? Would we be like, we can't remember before that event? Or everything before that event was just very foggy and cloudy, and we had very little memory of what happened. See, all of this is brand new. We have no way of testing any of this. Scientists is now trying to figure it out. And why are they in a big rush to try to figure some of this stuff out? Because they estimate that polar reversal could happen within the next year to 100 years. We don't have the technology or the science to know. The only thing we know is that the North Pole, the magnetic North Pole, is dramatically speeding towards the North Pole. And some people think, which we don't know, that's when the magnetic North Pole reaches the real North Pole, that is when reversal will happen. Because scientists were shocked when they discovered that the North Pole and the magnetic North Pole was in two separate locations. You get it? They thought that the North Pole and magnetic North Pole would be the same place. They thought that compasses pointed towards the North Pole. They found out later that compasses do not point towards the North Pole. They point towards the magnetic North Pole. And now the magnetic North Pole is racing at super fast speed towards the true North Pole. And the South Magnetic Pole is racing towards the true North Pole. What happens when they are one and the same? Is that when reversal happens? Does it happen after that? Before that? We really don't know. We haven't been here before. We're like Star Trek. We're in unknown territory. We know nothing. This is very scary. I don't have any answers. Science don't have any answers. They have theories. They have things they're working on. They're running tests. They're doing this. There's different. They don't know. And some people are biting their fingers and biting their nose and biting their fingers and going crazy, because if society is going to collapse, with which we're going to talk about in a few weeks, alternative 1 and alternative 3 and alternative 1, alternative 2, and alternative 3 theory, which is alternative 1 is you try to save everybody. Alternative 2 is you try to save as many as you can, the most important people. Alternative 3 is you just save that select few. Everyone else get flushed. With this, they need to develop at least an alternative 3 scenario, to where if everything on the planet were lost, we could still maintain something of our technology and civilization. We still want to keep the secret formula of Coca-Cola. You understand what I'm saying? We wouldn't want to lose that. Okay, right? There's probably several other things that is very important that we need to keep if all knowledge and information was lost. Okay. And what would that be? Do we need to find a way to keep what those 11 herbs and spices and that secret formula is kept, just in case all knowledge is lost? If you had a choice of what could be saved, what would you choose to be saved? Okay. This is not good. And right now, I don't even know if they have an alternative 3 scenario or not. But for me and you, we're not part of alternative 3, which is the select few. We're not part of alternative 2, which is to save as many as possible. If something happens, we're going to get flushed. We're going to be on our own. And if you live in a rural environment or a place where they grow their own food or this or that, as long as people don't lose their memory on how to grow food, I guess we could go back to an agrarian society. But what happens to the people that live in the giant cities? How would they survive? There's no food. There's no nothing. There's no running water. There's no electricity. There's no anything. What's going to happen to them? And if you live in a place like Las Vegas or whatever, where everything is trucked in or pumped in every single day, how would they survive if there was no running water, no electricity, no nothing, and you're a city in the middle of the desert, isolated? Sounds like a movie. Scary movie to me, right? Sound like the Road Warrior or something. Okay. We need to figure out something. And we need to figure it out quick. Okay. So, now, another thing that we don't know about, since we're talking this, we also see, people don't know If magnetic reversal and polar shift is two separate events or one on top of the other. If the North Pole moved and the magnetic field reversed at the same time, oh, that would be hit in the right jaw and hit in the left jaw. That might just take you out completely. Because with the North Pole switching position and the giant tsunami and tidal waves and this and that and the landmass moving all over the earth, and this is talked about in the Bible about the great earthquake which is felt all over the world. Okay, that's bad enough if we just had polar shift and the magnetic reversal didn't happen. If we had magnetic reversal, that would be super bad. But if we had magnetic reversal and polar shift at the same time, that's game over, man. That's super game over. Okay. That would really take us down to, from 7 billion probably down to a few million. Okay. So I do not have any answers. Do anyone have an answer on how we can do this? Okay. Okay. Somebody's talking about China's immune to the virus. There's nothing to do about virus. If you're locked in or vote or sperm vote, I guess we could put we have those, some people talking about we have these vaults. We have these vaults all over the world. 7 of them, where we have a vault that got seeds from all over the world. We have a vault that got DNA from all the animals all over the world. We have a vault that got plant samples from all over the world. We have these different vaults for doomsday scenario, which you're not supposed to know about. Now, these vaults are dependent, I guess, up on people knowing how to access them and how to do everything. If our brains was reversed, you may not have the memory to getting back in there. And for 2, even if our brains wasn't reversed and you could remember without electricity, this and that and everything else, how could you do it? And some of those vaults, like those DNA vaults and things, are stored in the Antarctic because it's super cold. Once the polar shift and the North Pole move again, that vault could end up, instead of being in a cold area, it could move. It could end up in a very warm area or in a hot area or underwater. It's like this is like, it's too many variables. We don't know what's going to happen. But we do have one ace in the hole, and I got a good 10, 15 minutes. We do have one ace in the hole. We always come back to the same scenario. Our alien friends are promising to assist us. Why are you mentioning that? Because they've been around a very long time. They probably know with the signs. They probably know what happened last time. They probably know a lot of things. And if they assist us, we could probably make it through. And they probably have devices and whatever, because they've been here on this planet. If you go by the Anunnaki records, when they first came to this planet, the Anunnaki, the old ones was here that had clover feet and leather skin, dinosaurs. They've been here that long. So they have seen this reversed several times. They probably got stuff that is immune to it. They probably know how to protect their stuff where the polarity doesn't affect their equipment, their whatever. Okay. We don't know. But they're promising through all of this stuff to assist us. But the definition of assist us, we have no idea what that means. Okay. Bible people believe this is all in the Bible. I saw a comment about this is all written about in the Bible and everything and whatever. People that believe in the Bible believe that if you're going to be raptured and all this stuff, you're not going to have to go through all this BS, because this is only for the people that is left behind. will have to go through all this craziness and BS. But again, we don't even know what angels are. We don't even know what demons are. So what the Bible says might be true. But the Bible says that the rapture is you will be pulled into the clouds. What does that? We don't even know what that means. Is that the alien friends? Are these real angels? We have no idea. But if you believe either way, we're still supposed to get assistance. And either way, we still don't know who these assistance beings are. Are they aliens? Are they angels? Are they demons? Are they extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional? We have no idea. Okay. But they are promising to aid and assist. That leads to another issue. You know, nothing's never for free. So, if you believe in the Bible, the price for aiding and assistance is that after this, God, His kingdom is going to rule on the earth. I guess man's kingdom will come to an end. I guess if the aliens help us, I guess we will live with the aliens after that. Either way, man, this planet being ruled by man the way we know it will come to an end either way. Okay. And what will that be like? I have no idea. Okay. Somebody said the meek will inherit the earth. Okay. I don't even know what that means, what the meek means. The vegetarians, the Christians, the Muslims, the believers, the non-believers, the good people, the bad people, we have no idea. See, we talk a lot of talk, but when it comes to answering the questions, we can't even answer those questions. The meek, people are going to say, well, people that believe in what? If you're Christian, you believe that Jesus is returning on a white horse. If you're Muslim, you believe that the Mahdi is coming on a flying white horse. If you're Hindu, you believe that Kalki is coming on a flying white horse. Who's right? And as the Bible says, there's lots of these lists. Everybody's trying to get on a list. But the Bible says there's only one true list, which is the Lamb's book of life. So even if you're part of that secret organization or that religion that is promised to be saved and this and that, are you on the true list or are you on the fake list? We still don't know. So we are heading towards an uncertain future. The only thing that we are trying to do with ourselves is that we are going to try to, and what scientists is trying to do, which they may be incapable of doing, but we have some smart SOPs up there. Remember, they haven't cured the common cold. They haven't cured cancer, but they do have a vaccine for the coronavirus. So they are pretty smart. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so maybe they can figure this out. I don't know. But how come they can't cure the common cold? How come they can't find a cure to cancer? But they can find a vaccine for the coronavirus. To me, a lot of this stuff doesn't make sense. But you just got to take it the way it is. You know what I'm saying? You got to believe in something. Okay. But unfortunately for this show, I don't have any answers. My thing was to introduce to you a situation that is coming our way. Scientists is trying to figure it out. And maybe just like with a Fermi cage, they have figured out how to get away an EMP blast. Maybe there is a way to survive the Earth polarity shift. And if they do find a way, Even with protection against an EMP blast, they're not giving us that protection. They're saying in case, an EMP happened or in case there was a giant solar flare, it would knock out all of our electronics and everything, but the military would be they would be able to survive it. Okay. The large corporations could survive it. I guess if the umbrella corporation survived, you don't need to worry about anything else, right? So this is the problem we have. Nobody seemed to care about the common man, me and you. Okay. They only care about the governments, the corporations, and the billionaires. I'm not in one of those three categories. So if we do receive help, we need somebody that's going to help the common person. Okay. Because we all need, life is precious for everyone. And we all need to do our part. What I will continue to do, as you know, I have information. I'm a Gnostic. I study a lot of things. I will continue to provide you with the latest information, good and bad, on what is going on. I don't always have the answers, but at least I'm telling you about what is happening. Okay. At least you understand. So when they start talking about the polls, they mention this sometimes on the news or on certain shows about the polls might reverse and whatever, but they never try to explain it. I have done my best to explain this. And if I come across any more information or anything, or if you have some information, maybe you have that divine source of what is going on, and maybe you can help us in this quest. Feel free to let me know, and we have to do our best to save ourselves, our families, our community, and the human race itself. So this was a very heavy subject. As I said, hopefully we have the time to figure this out. But scientists say this could happen tomorrow up to the next 100 years. Okay. But they do not understand the process of why it is happening. Okay. But as I always tell people, the future is the past and the past is the future. So by us looking back at what happened at some of these older civilizations and why they just collapsed overnight from high technology to nothing, hopefully we can avoid going the same way. Or maybe it is irreversible about switching. But I believe that time is a river. Time is not a book. And, with a book, time is set. There's nothing you can do. I believe time is liquid. And we can get into possible futures. And we have a way of controlling our own destiny. And I want the best for you and your family. I want the best for all of humanity. That is what I'm looking for. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I want you to have a very nice week. I'm here with you every Tuesday and Wednesday. And if there's any subjects you would like to talk about, please let me know. And on this network, the Spin Room Network, they always have a lot of very good shows, and you should tune in. And you can also find me on my Facebook page. Go look under Lynn David Livesey. You can join my page. I'm on YouTube. I do podcasts also. And I'm everywhere. I'm like a bad coat. With that, I'm Lynn David Livesey, your full spectrum Gnostic. I'm out of here. Thank you so much. Bye.